Good morning. My name is Brenda Erskine, and I'm the Director of Communications and Stakeholder Relations at the municipality. I'd like to thank all of you for joining us today. And first of all, apologies for some of you who are watching this. You might see the RES logo come up on the screen as opposed to our municipal logo, and that's because we're using the same telephone town hall system that we used in the post-fire REOC. I'm joined this morning on the call by our CAO, Annette Antoniak, and by our Director of HR, Terry Hartley. And they're here to listen to your questions and hear your concerns, and most importantly, to answer your questions. We've scheduled the call to last for 30 minutes, and here's the important information for you. If you have a question and you're on the phone, press *3 at any time during the call, and we have some screeners set up to take your question and get you into the queue. You can also ask a question at any time by typing it into the question box on the web interface. And then, again, we have screeners queuing them up, and I'll read the question on the call before it's answered. Given the high number of employees on the call this morning, we may not be able to answer all of your questions during the call, but we will be making a recording archive of this, and we'll post it to the web in a few days, and we'll also be answering some of the unanswered questions on an ongoing basis and posting them to that site. So again, *3 if you're on the phone, and if you're on the web interface, just type your questions in. I'll now go to our first question. It comes from the web, and it's from Ashley. And I'll give the question to Terry. The question is, what is the total number of layoffs? I keep hearing different numbers. Terry?
The total number of layoffs for both CUPE members and exempt employees would be around 100.
Thanks, Terry. The next question again came in on the web from Trevor. Do any of the changes that took place yesterday affect firefighters or paramedics? And I'll give that question to Annette.
No, there will be no effect on paramedics or the firefighters.
Thanks, Annette. And another question from the web, from Andrea. In 2016, there were culture focus groups. Are we planning on holding similar meetings in the future to discuss these changes? Terry?
Our CEO has reviewed all of the background materials on the culture initiative and is very supportive of it. And she has some ideas that we'll be discussing for future rollout of the culture.
Okay. Thanks, Terry. And another question from the web, from Kyle. Employee morale was already low after the fire. How will you address this going forward? Annette?
Thanks, Brenda. Through the realignment, you'll see a flattening of the organization, which will reduce bureaucracy and increase the empowerment of staff, which I believe will help morale. This is also a one-time event of reduction in staffing. And parallel to that, we will be rolling out a brand new employee recognition program that HR is currently putting together. So collectively, I believe through all these efforts, and there's a lot of work to still do with respect to, people just working together as a team. So I'm hoping through the reorganization that happens.
Thanks, Annette. And another question from the web, from Tanya. When will the new organization charts be posted? Terry?
The high-level organization chart involving the senior leaders will be sent out to all employees today through the email. By the end of the week, all the new organizational charts will be published on the internet in their usual space.
Okay, just a reminder, we're getting lots of questions in on the web, but if anybody wants to submit a question on the phone, just press *3 and you'll be queued up. All right, here's another question from the web from Brent. Currently with Bill 21, we are indefinitely grandfathered and don't need to lower tax rates. It was said that there would be changes coming, but if that change does not come, we won't have to lower them, correct? And this is for Annette.
Yeah, thanks, Brenda, again. Well, while there is a grandfathering provision in the legislation, the grandfathering only exists until the regulations and technical amendments are determined by the Government of Alberta. So right now, we are currently working with the Bill 21 Steering Committee to come up with what that transition plan looks like.
All right, thanks, Annette. And another question from the web, Lisa. I've heard COLA will be eliminated. Is that true? And I'll give this one to Annette.
There is no provision at the time to look at eliminating COLA.
All right, thank you, Annette. Next question is from Leslie. What is the breakdown between QP and exempt who were affected yesterday? Terry, this one's for you.
QP layoff notices, there were 58 of them, and the balance of would be exempt staff. Because there were a number of vacancies, some exempt staff have been given other opportunities, similar for QP staff for that matter.
Okay, thank you, Terry. And another question from Jocelyn from the web. Jocelyn says, I'm from Sustainable Operations. Does this mean I'm under Environmental Services now?
Yes.
Thank you, Terry. And as we mentioned, the new high-level org chart that explains where the different departments fall under will be released today, and then there'll be more complete org charts delivered at the end of the week. Okay. All right, I have another. Or will there be more layoffs? Annette?
This is it. This is a one-time event with respect to any layoffs.
Thanks, Annette. And now we have Megan on the phone. Go ahead, Megan.
My question was, we were told this is a one-time event for layoffs, but is there a possibility of future RMWB services being contracted out, thus resulting in more layoffs?
I'll let, thanks, that's a great question, Megan, and I'll pass that one over to Terry.
There are specific provisions in the QP collective agreement with respect to no layoffs of, well, contracting out the work that those people are doing.
Okay, thanks, Terry. And another question on the web. This one is from Laura. How will this impact recovery efforts? And I'll give this one to Annette.
Thanks, Brenda. Nothing that has been done with respect to the realignment will affect any of the recovery efforts.
Thanks, Annette. And this one is a group question on the web from Community Services. Where does recovery fit into this realignment? And I'll give that one to Annette as well.
Well, as everyone knows, there is a recovery committee that has been established, and under that there's a recovery task force that has been put together to look after all the recovery needs of the entire region. That will continue. As I said earlier, the current status of the Recovery Task Force and the committee have not been affected by any of this realignment.
All right. Thanks, Annette. This is along a similar line and comes from boardroom number 4. When will we hear about bumping results coming from recovery? And I'll give this one to Terry. So maybe Terry, just talk about the bumping process in general, and then if you can talk specifically about how that might impact recovery.
Okay. Will do. The QP bumping process, people have options. One option is, in fact, to take severance rather than to take a vacant position or to bump. Secondly, if a vacant position for which they are qualified has been offered, that could also be taken by the employee. And thirdly, they could bump a less senior employee. So those are the 3 options with 14 days from the date of the layoff notice to decide to bump. With respect to recovery, the union members in recovery that have been given layoff notice would have the exact same options, and it is their entitlement to be able to exercise those options.
Okay, thank you, Terry. Just a reminder that our phone lines are open, and all you need to do is press *3, and you'll jump into the queue fairly quickly. Most of our questions are coming in on the web. This one is from Bev. I think Terry may have just answered this question, but just in case and to make sure that everybody's clear on it, I'll ask the question. How long will the QP bumping last?
Exactly how long it will last, because it really depends on how much bumping takes place. QP and the employer have been working together to try to minimize bumping, but it could take maybe 8 weeks, could be 3 months.
Okay, thank you, Terry. And this question is from Dennis on the web. Why weren't senior employees offered voluntary layoff? Terry? If the position was eliminated under the collective agreement, someone would get a layoff notice and they would have the option of taking severance. But there wasn't an open voluntary severance for all employees because some employees are critical, and those weren't necessarily the positions that were being eliminated. Thanks, Terry. Another question on the web, this one from Kevin. Will qualified temporary staff be looked at when filling positions? Again, for Terry. I'm not sure if I understand the question. Is it, will qualified temporary employees be considered? I'm not sure if I really understand what that is getting at. If there are temporary positions, then ultimately QP members who would be subject, if their last option was layoff, they would have be able to be offered those temporary positions. Hopefully that answered the question. All right, we are now going to go to the phones, and we have a call from Daniel. Daniel, thanks for calling, and you are now live.
I'm wondering if any of these layoffs affected any of the mechanics in both of the divisions.
All right, thank you, Daniel. And Annette, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that your directors in each of your areas will be sharing their specific organizational charts with the employee sometime today, just to make it clear. While we can't provide you with the overall organization charts for the organization specific to your area, that will be shared with you, with your managers today.
Right. Thank you, Annette, and that's a good reminder. This one in on the web from Lauren, and it's for Terry. If a person has been laid off, does it mean that that specific position no longer exists?
People would have only been issued layoff notice if their position no longer existed, that specific position. Unless there was a group of people, then typically it would have been the least senior person within that classification which would have got the layoff notice.
Okay, thank you, Terry. And a question from Steve on the web. This one is for Annette. How do we maintain customer service levels when we're letting go staff who provide essential services?
Well, one of the mandates of this realignment was not to affect any programs or services, so I don't believe we will be compromising our customer service to our taxpayers and our residents.
All right, thank you. And this one is on the web from a group of Public Works employees. Will there be further layoffs next year?
I don't anticipate at this time that there will be further layoffs. We're dealing with 2017 and the operating budget that we currently have, but I'm not foreseeing that in 2018 there will be further layoffs.
All right. Thank you, Annette. And a question from room G or 6. I'm not sure what that is. It's on the web. This is a question for Annette. How was it determined which positions are no longer necessary?
There was a tremendous amount of work. There was a tremendous amount of work that was done over the last several weeks, engaging different managers and HR partners within each of the areas, and also a tremendous amount of research on the financial viability of each department and the expenses in order to come up with the realignment that is being rolled out this week.
All right, thanks for that, Annette. And now we're going to the phones again. Just a reminder to others who want to submit a question on the phone that it's *3. So this question is from Laura on the phone. Laura, go ahead.
Hi, I work with the RCMP, and we have a 6 to 8 month waiting period for security clearance. If someone's bumping in here, how does that work for pay if their position is vacant in 20 days? And what happens to the person that's currently in the position getting bumped? And my second question is it possible to be bumped twice?
Okay, thanks. Good questions, Laura, and I'll pass that one over to Terry.
Hi, Laura. Yes, it is. First question I'll answer is the last one. It would be possible to be bumped twice, I believe. Hopefully that doesn't happen. With respect to the RCMP and the security clearance, QP and ourselves have already had some discussions about this. What we want to have happen is to have the bumping process take place, even though someone would not necessarily assume the position until their security clearance has actually been granted. So the bumping process, people would know where they were going once that final bump had taken place, but it just, when the security clearance kicked in, then people would go into their position.
Okay, thanks, Terry. And here's a question from Dave on the web. You say we'll save $121 million over 5 years. Does that mean a 5-year hiring freeze?
No, it doesn't mean a 5-year hiring freeze. Obviously, for any critical positions, those will be filled immediately. And what we'll be looking at moving forward is any when somebody is transitioning out of a position, we will be looking at the business case with respect to the need for that position going forward.
Okay, thanks, Annette. And this is a question from Community Services on the web. Again, it's related to QP and the bumping process. So it's three questions. When will QP bumping take effect? I think we've kind of answered that already, but we'll repeat it. When will bumped employees find out that they've been bumped? And how long will this process go on? Terry?
Okay, with respect to the options, so what employees have is 14 days, 14 calendar days from the date they receive the notice to identify any position they believe they are qualified for to which they would wish to bump. So at that time, we would just examine the qualifications to ensure that they were bona fide, and then we would notify the employee being bumped then. That employee would receive layoff notice, and they would have the same options to look at severance, vacant positions for which they are qualified, or other positions to bump into.
Okay, thank you, Terry. And now we have Mohammed on the phone. Mohammed, please go ahead with your question.
Yeah, hello. I was just wondering if there will be a full-time position opening for the people who work in the transit department.
Sorry, Mohammed, you're breaking up. I wonder if you can maybe put the phone closer to your face, and maybe we'll be able to hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's much better. Thank you.
Okay. I was just wondering if there will be a full-time positions opening for the people who were temps for a while in the transit department.
Okay, this is a fairly specific question to transit. Terry, are you able to answer this question at this time?
Robert Billard will be the director who has oversight over both public works and transit, and that would be a question probably best posed to him when he is visiting the transit operations.
Okay, thanks, Terry. And I do apologize on behalf of everyone here that we can't answer some of the more specific questions. Obviously, this announcement has just come out today, so we'll try to focus on the higher level questions. And we do encourage all of you to talk to your directors or your immediate supervisors as the week proceeds, and we'll try to get more answers out on the web as well. So here's a question from Joe on the web. What is the direction of the organization related to professional memberships and affiliations? For example, fees, conferences, and continuing education credits. We know that for the past year, a lot of these things have been on hold. So, Annette, can you answer that one?
Yes, I can. And it's my position that if you require your professional designation and for the job that you're currently doing for the RMWB, then we will definitely look at that. And with respect to training, I am also a believer of proper training of staff, and it is very important. And we would ask that prior to finalizing that a business case be put forward, and we will look at that immediately.
Thanks, Annette. And here's another question on the web from Room 1. Will there be priority for rehire for those who've been laid off in future vacant positions? Terry, I think this is a question for you.
Yes. Through the QP collective agreement, an employee who would be laid off is actually on layoff for 18 months. During that 18-month period, they could be recalled at any time to do work for the municipality for which they're qualified. So being laid off does not necessarily mean that there are no options available. There still would be casual work, temporary work, and potentially permanent work in the future.
Okay, thanks for that, Terry. We do have 10 minutes left on the call, and I know that we've got lots of questions coming in, and you'll have questions as we go forward. So just a reminder that you can, we'll post all of the questions that we haven't answered on the web, and then, of course, go to your director or even to the CAO via email if you have a question that you feel hasn't been answered. This one is from Anne on the web. Will the list of current vacancies be provided on the intranet so affected QP employees can review? This is one for Terry.
Yes, that is actually being worked on today. An up-to-date list of vacancies. You should be able to see that today at some point. Okay,
thanks, Terry. And I should have added that also your HR business partner is a good resource for a lot of these questions. Another question from the web, community services. Can QP and exempt staff be rehired if they decide to take a severance and are not on standby? Terry, I think that's another one for you.
I'm not aware if there's any policy on rehiring somebody who's had a severance. However, there can be some concerns with that. But I'm not aware of any policy currently on it.
Okay, thank you, Terry. This one is from Community Services on the web. How are short-term disability and long-term disability employees affected? And there's more to that one. For QP members on mat leave, do they have until the end of their term to select an option? So two related questions there about people who are on short-term disability, long-term disability, and on maternity leave. Terry?
Okay, yes, people on both QP and ourselves have agreed that we should give, so that we don't delay the bumping process for people on short-term disability and maternity. They should be getting their notice just like everybody else, and they have been, and they will so exercise their rights now so that we don't, 6 months from now have another round of layoffs with people returning from maternity leave and short-term disability. For people on long-term disability, we're not doing anything at the present time.
All right, thanks, Terry. And once again, we encourage folks who are in those positions to contact HR and get additional information. This one from Community Services, will flex days be eliminated? And this is for Annette.
Thanks, Brenda. No, absolutely not. Flex days will not be eliminated.
All right, thanks, Annette. And this one from Steve on the web. Will there be an interview process or competency testing for people bumping into new positions? Terry, this one for you.
There may be a meet and greet type process, but there certainly will be an examination of qualifications of some form or another.
All right, and just a reminder, we now have 5 minutes left on the call. This one from room 1 on the web. Again, related to QP positions and bumping and qualifications. What happens if a QP member cannot find another position for which they are qualified to bump into?
Unfortunately, if there is no position to either vacate or to bump into, the QP member would go on layoff. So a layoff, again, they would be able to collect employment insurance provided they meet the requirements there, and then they could be recalled to work at any point during the 18 months of the layoff.
All right. Thank you, Terry. This question from Public Works. What happens if someone wants to take voluntary layoff, and what are the timelines for that?
If a QP member wants to take voluntary layoff, I would suggest that they contact their union office and discuss that. And if appropriate, we will be contacted by QP to discuss.
Thank you, Terry. And this one is from Jamie on the web. What if you don't know who your director is? Is there a director in environmental services and engineering to speak with? Terry.
The senior leadership organizational chart will be sent out following this meeting sometime today. So that will be you'll know who your director is and how it all flows.
Okay, thanks, Terry. And this one from Public Works. Will there be an updated QP seniority list provided? Terry?
I believe there has been for any employee who was issued layoff notice. I believe they would have received an updated seniority list with their letter.
And this one is from Diane on the web. How many temp and casual positions have we eliminated in this realignment?
There were maybe a handful of temporary employees who received notice that their term was coming to an end.
Thank you, Terry. And this one's from Stephen on the web. Was any one department impacted more than others? Annette, we'll give this one to you.
Yes, finance was probably the most affected department through this realignment.
All right. And this one from Dennis on the web. If service levels suffer and we hear more public complaints, will we rehire? Burnett.
Once again, I'd like to reiterate that the mandate of this realignment from the very beginning was not to affect any programs or services. So we don't anticipate that there will be a difference in the customer service that we provide to our residents.
All right, and we're going to have to wrap up this call now. I'd like to thank everyone for participating. I hope this has been valuable to all employees. We're certainly encouraging everyone to provide feedback on this process overall, both the CAO video and this teleconference. We'll be working to improve our communications processes in the future. We know there's lots of new information to absorb, as I said before, and we'll do our best to answer any unanswered questions we receive today as we go into the week. So that's all the time we have for today. Again, thank you for listening, and please do talk to your director, your HR business partner, going forward if you have additional specific questions about your department or about your own role specifically. Thank you.